And so I'm the Education Abroad Manager here at Ohio State in the College of Food and Ag for those of you. And then we are joined by Neil Evans, and I will let him introduce himself.
Right, so I'll share my slides for you once I can remember what I'm doing here. We tested this before, we know that it works. So I was going to say it's not going to work, and now it's doing it. Okay, so you should now see my screen. So my name is Neil Evans. So I'm the Deputy Associate Dean for Learning and Teaching at the University of Glasgow School of Veterinary Medicine. And I was expecting my colleague Joyce Wason to join us, so she might pop in as we go along. And Joyce is the Director of our Admissions and Student Services Manager. And what we wanted to do was to tell you a little bit about the opportunities which we have for you at the University of Glasgow School of Veterinary Medicine. And particularly if you're thinking about a career in animal health and how that can be furthered by taking your veterinary degree at the University of Glasgow itself. So the image which you can see in the picture here is of looking out across. This is the spire of one of the buildings, what we refer to as the main university at Glasgow. And what we wanted to do is to tell you about a particular program which we have associated with the Ohio State, because this, I think, provides fantastic opportunities for you with regard to a veterinary education. And this program is what we refer to as the FEEPASS program, or it's the Facilitated Early Entry Program for Animal Science Students. And this is a program which we've set up with a series of different universities across North America, which have particularly good animal science programs. And it's set up because we think it's a way of giving you peace of mind, because it gives you effectively a guaranteed place at a vet school from, for example, from your sophomore year of college. It also can provide a variety of other benefits for you, because it means that you can save some money because you don't have to apply through the FEEPASS system. It can reduce your stress because we don't expect you to take extra exams such as your GREs. And also it can save you a year's worth of tuition. So we'll explain a little bit of how that works as we go through this. So we have always, for many, many years now, taken students from North America onto our veterinary program. And if you apply that traditional route of getting to vet school, our program is referred to as the Bachelor's of Veterinary Medicine and Surgery program. It's a 5-year program. And if you go that traditional entry route, you'd be doing your normal 4-year animal science program. And during your senior year, you'd be submitting your FEEPASS application in the fall of that senior year. And you'd have your interviews and you might get a place at veterinary school during the spring semester of your senior year. And to get in using that route, we typically expect our students to have at least 3 years of a university education. They must have done subjects including organic chemistry, biology and mathematics, or physics, and you do that as part of your animal science degree. They would typically have a GPA greater than or equal to 3.2, and we would normally expect students to have some practical animal-related work experience, including 2 weeks with a veterinarian. So I said that's the traditional route which students would do. But the FEEPASS gives you these advantages, because with the FEEPASS program, if we think about your animal science degree, so your freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years, then what happens is you can apply as early as the fall of your sophomore year. And if you apply at that point, you can actually get accepted again during that fall of or early spring semester of your sophomore year. And it means that you would then be on the program. And if you're on that program, the FEEPASS program, you would do your junior year at the Ohio State. But the senior year of the program, you would come over to Glasgow and you would sit through the first year of our BVMS program. And at the end of that year, you would be able to transfer credits back to the Ohio State, which would allow you to graduate with your BSc. Now, the advantage of moving that application process down to your sophomore year is that not only does it give you peace of mind that you've got a place in vet school, but it also allows you to line up in your junior year that you can cover all of the animal science prerequisites. that you have to complete at the Ohio State because of the fact you'd be in Glasgow for that senior year. If you completed and you've the first year of our program, and you then transfer those credits, said you'd graduate from your BSc, but you're also then you're guaranteed entry effectively to our program, but you would effectively enter that at the beginning of second year. So you've saved a year's worth of fees because you've effectively overlapped the senior year of your animal science degree with the first year of the BVMS program. To get on, we look for almost exactly the same things as we talked about before. So you have to have your prerequisite courses, so chemistry, including organic chemistry, biology, mathematics, or physics, but we know that you've covered those in your animal science degree. You have to have a GPA of 3.2. And we don't mean just at the point that you're applying here in your sophomore year, but you may need to maintain that through your junior year as well. We expect you to have some animal-related work experience. Again, you'll pick up a lot of that as you go through your animal science degree, but you must have at least 2 weeks experience working with a veterinarian. If you were to apply during the sophomore year and you are not successful at that point, it doesn't mean that you can't come into our program through the FEEPASS program, because you can apply during that junior year, but you have to make sure you have all of those animal science prerequisites covered during that junior year for your Ohio State degree, and that's really important. So there's a couple of places where you can join, but thinking about it early is really good because it allows you to set up your kind of study pathway as you go through this program. So what can we offer you at Glasgow? Well, I said the image which you saw on the first slide showed you part of the main university and looking over the city of Glasgow itself, but we're really lucky at Glasgow because we have our veterinary school located on a single campus, the Garscube Estate. And the Garscube Estate is located about 5 miles from the main university. It's still within the city of Glasgow itself, but it was an old estate, which you can see in the picture here. The big house has long since fallen down, but it gave us effectively a greenfield site within the city limits, which we've been able to develop for state-of-the-art veterinary education, clinical services, and research facilities. And even though we've developed the campus, you can see from the images on the right here that it's a really nice, green, and pleasant place to be. But if you're thinking about your veterinary education, then you might be more interested in what facilities we have on site. And we have fantastic facilities on the Garscube campus. On the campus, we have a small animal hospital. We have a new small animal hospital, which we opened in 2011, which provides access for our students to state-of-the-art operating suites, a unique pain and rehabilitation centre, the first Scottish Comparative Oncology Centre, fantastic diagnostic imaging tools, and an advanced endoscopy suite. Now, the small animal hospital itself acts as a referral centre. And by that, what I mean is that cases which are first of all seen by general practitioners can get sent to our small animal hospital if they're complicated or difficult cases. And we'll have about 16,000 cases that will come through that route every year. But if we look where our graduates go, many of them will go out into first opinion practice when they've graduated. So to ensure our students get really good exposure to first opinion practice, we have now set up an out-of-hours first opinion practice, which we run from our small animal hospital. But also our students will also undertake clinical placements as they go through the program with the Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals and the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals. And these two organisations are charities located within the city of Glasgow, which see over 32,000 first opinion cases every year. So as our students go through our program, they get access to over 48,000 companion animal teaching cases every year. Also located on the same campus, on the Garscube campus, we have the WIPERS Centre for Equine Welfare. And the WIPERS Centre's been undergoing some really exciting developments over the last year. It has run as an equine referral hospital for many, many years, in which case we would see about 1,000 cases heading on for every year. About 300 of those horses are hospitalised, and all of them are available for teaching purposes. And as that's an equine hospital, we have intensive care facilities located in the Glasgow Equine Hospital. We have an indoor arena, we have nuclear medicine and MRI facilities. But what we've also set up within the last 12 months is our own first opinion practice. And that gives our students additional exposure to first opinion practice, But in addition to work within our equine hospital and working with our clinicians with regard to that first opinion practice, we also have formal arrangements with a number of private practices locally. So again, by rotating through these different options, our students get exposure to all aspects of equine medicine. Located on the same campus, our Glasgow campus, we also have the Scottish Centre for Production, Animal Health and Food Safety, which is a very long name, so we tend to call it the Large Animal Unit. And this is where we base our production animal clinicians. And I say base them here because they typically run an ambulatory service where they'll go out to local farms and ranches, and they will see over 1,600 animals per year using that route. But also by going out to the farms, the local farms, they will access those, they work with the farmers with regard to herd and flock health schemes. So they'll get access to a further maybe 24,000 animals per year. So they get access to a large number of production animals. But production animal medicine is slightly different to companion animal medicine because economics comes into play. And so sometimes our clinicians can be talking to a farmer and they'll have an animal which they can and want to treat, but it's not going to be economically worthwhile for that farmer to treat that animal. And in that situation, what happens is the farmer can either donate the animal to the university, or we can purchase it, and we can bring it back to the large animal unit, and we can maintain those animals within the large animal unit, and then they can become teaching cases for our students. Unfortunately for the animals, it means if they come into this unit, they will typically leave through the door located at the back of the building here, and that goes out to our post-mortem facility. But again, educationally, that's really good because our students can see not only the pathological changes in an animal associated with the disease process, and maybe some of the treatments that you would try out on those animals or use on those animals, but they can also follow that up with the pathological specimens that you can generate from those animals as well. So that summarizes kind of the the clinical facilities we have on site, but we also have fantastic research facilities on site, and that's important because research underpins how we teach veterinary medicine at the University of Glasgow. The image here shows the Henry Wellcome Centre for Comparative Medicine that was opened within the last 15 years. And the top image here shows the UK Centre for Virus Research, and that was opened about 2 years ago. And that was a very timely addition to the campus, because it's been incredibly busy over the last year, as you can imagine, with regard huge amounts of COVID-related research ongoing on our campus. So as I said, research underpins how we teach veterinary medicine, and many of the members of staff who are involved in delivering our program are members of what we refer to as cross-disciplinary research institutes. So at Glasgow, we brought together within our College of Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences expertise from the medical field, the veterinary field, and basic science to address a series of biological questions, and they're kind of highlighted by the titles of some of the research institutes which we have present within our college. Now, if you want a metric of the quality of the work which we have ongoing, if you look at our research income, we consistently have the highest research income from the research councils, so they're equivalent to the NIH and the USDA, but we also have a huge income from research charities as well coming to the vet school. We also have something in the UK called the Research Excellence Framework, which is a comparative exercise across the universities. The last one was completed in 2014. We were due to have one last year, but that got postponed. But in the last one that was completed, Glasgow came out as the highest with regard to UK vet schools for veterinary research quality. We also have fantastic student facilities on site. Using the brownfield site where our small animal hospital used to be, we've now opened what we refer to as the Mary Stuart building. And the Mary Stuart building provides catering facilities for our students, as well as the flexible study space, which you can see in the top images here. But it's also got these study booths, seminar rooms, tutorial rooms, banking facilities. So it's a great space for our students to hang out between different teaching events. In addition to what we have on the Glasgow campus, the University of Glasgow also owns Cocknow Farm and Research Centre, which is what you can see depicted in the images here. Again, this was an old estate. You can see the estate house, which is still standing in this case, in the right-hand image. And the buildings here make up the commercial farm, and the buildings here make up a large animal research unit. And having this is important because it provides opportunities for our students. Now, you've come from your animal science program, so you already had great access to working with production animals, but some of our students haven't had that access. So having Cochno as a resource for our students allows them to get access to dairy. We run a relatively small dairy unit at Cochno. We run a beef suckler unit at Cochno. We run about 550 head of breeding ewes at Cochno. Anytime you go out there, you'll find lots of these strange two-legged creatures there because our students work at Cochno. And they'll be working at Cochno within the first week they're on our veterinary science program. So why might you want to think about coming to study veterinary medicine at Glasgow as opposed to maybe going to one of the North American schools? Well, all of the UK veterinary schools are accredited by the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, and that accreditation allows you to work as a veterinary surgeon in the UK, in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Asia. And in itself, it wouldn't allow you to work within North America as a veterinarian. However, Glasgow is also accredited by the AVMA. It's one of only 4 of the UK schools who have AVMA approval. And we've just gone through our reaccreditation the week before last. But if we have a dual accredited degree, because the AVMA accreditation allows you to work in North America and the RCVS accreditation allows you to work in all of those other countries, basically that dual accreditation allows you to work as a veterinarian anywhere within the world. Now, if you went to a North American school, it would have AVMA accreditation. And if you wanted to work anywhere else, you'd have to take additional exams. But coming through our system, you would get both of this accreditation at the same time, and therefore you don't have to sit all of those additional examinations. So that's a definite advantage if you want to have travel in your future. So how do we teach veterinary medicine at Glasgow? Well, we redesigned our curriculum a few years ago, and we've introduced what we refer to as a spiral integrated curriculum. And what we mean by this is we will cover the aspects of the healthy and the unhealthy from the very beginning of the program itself. And we will introduce you to concepts and ideas very early in the program, but you'll revisit them as you go through the program itself. And each time you revisit it, you'll cover it in more and more detail. And so we'll build up your knowledge as you go through the program itself. Now, because we're using this integrated curriculum, we have organized our program in a very different way to what happens in a lot of the other schools and maybe different to what you're used to at the moment. We have 3 phases within the program. A foundation phase runs in years 1 and 2, and that foundation phase is organized in 12 different blocks. Each block concentrates on a body system, and all of the teaching is built around common cases. So you will not get an anatomy lecture as such, and or anatomy course as such, and a physiology course or a cardiology course. Because when we look at the cardiovascular system, we will look at both the anatomy of it, the physiology of it, the pharmacology of it, the pathology associated with it, and they're all integrated around common cases, because that's how you will work when you're in practice. So from the very beginning of the foundation phase, we will start building up your clinical skills, your clinical thinking, and your clinical reasoning. The foundation phase is followed by the clinical phase. And that uses the same model system that all the teaching is built around clinical cases, and it's building up those clinical skills, clinical thinking, clinical reasoning. But now the cases that you're thinking about are more complicated. They might be looking at disease processes which affect multiple different organ systems as you go through the body. But it's really important that as you go through the clinical phase, we build up those clinical abilities, because the final phase, the professional phase of the course, is lecture-free. In some ways, the professional phase is almost like a protected internship for our students, because the students will work their way through the small animal hospital, the equine hospital, and the large animal unit, working with our clinicians. And that they are kind of organized by means of what we refer to as 6 core skills rotations. And in those core skills rotations, you'll cover all the traditional methodologies that are involved within veterinary medicine. But we've also introduced into the professional phase what we refer to as our selective rotations. And these are opportunities for our students to pick particular aspects of veterinary medicine that they want to do in more detail. Now, the core skills rotations all happen at Glasgow, but the selective rotations can happen at Glasgow, but we've also partnered up with a whole variety of institutions around the world to provide extra opportunities for our students. So they could do an equine rotation in Morocco, for instance, or a wildlife rotation in South Africa, or there's a series of rotations which we run in North America. And that might help you if you're thinking of returning back to North America, because you'll build up that American experience on your resume. During the professional phase, we also prepare all of our students for sitting the North American Veterinary Licensing Examination, which is exactly the same examination you'd sit if you went to one of the North American schools. So you're not disadvantaged in any way by going through our program compared to someone going through a North American school. So what else is different about our program? Well, you should be aware that our assessment in the UK is different, and particularly at Glasgow. And as we designed our curriculum, what we have provided in the curriculum is the information which you should want to know for your professional career. So we're very much of the opinion that assessment shouldn't be driving your learning. Your professional career should be driving your learning. Now, our course is organized, as I said, as effectively 1 year long courses, and therefore your assessment is of that course, and therefore you'll get one integrated assessment effectively at the end of each year of the program. Now, there is some continual assessment which you'll do during the year, so about 30% of the overall grade that you get for each year of the program is made up of continual assessment, but the other 70% comes from that end of year assessment. And that's made up of a whole series of different testing modalities, such as short answer questions, multiple choice questions, practical spot questions, so these are very much anatomy related, data interpretation questions, and objective structured clinical exams. So these are where we can test those practical aspects that we taught you as you go through the program. All of this assessment is built around clinical cases because that's the way we've taught you as you go through the program itself. Now, you might be a bit freaked by thinking about you're only going to have one integrated assessment, but as you go through the program, you're given lots and lots of formative assessment. So you get end of week quizzes, end of module quizzes. But the big difference is that we put those up for you and it's up for you to use them. We don't police whether you use those formative testing strategies. The only ones which we're interested in with regard to the marks for the course are these integrated assessment that we have at the end of the program itself. Another important difference of the UK system is our students have to undertake extramural studies. And this is extra work experience which you do, and this is mandated by the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons. And they say that our students have to undertake 12 weeks of what they refer to as preclinical EMS and 26 weeks of clinical EMS. Now, the preclinical EMS runs alongside our foundation phase, and that's very much animal husbandry related. So if you come through the FEEPASS program, you can get up to a 6-week exemption against this preclinical EMS by documenting the experiences you've had whilst you've been at the Ohio State. The clinical and professional EMS is putting into practice what you've learned. So this is when you're working with veterinary professionals. Now, all of the EMS it's up to you where you do that. You can do it in the UK, but you can equally do it in the US, or you can do it anywhere else. As long as it's animal or veterinary related, it can count towards your extramural studies. So our students, again, will use this as a way of traveling and experiencing different aspects around the globe. And if you've completed your academic components of the course and you've completed your EMS requirements, you will graduate as a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. And if we take you onto the program, we fully expect you to graduate as a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. And graduation happens in this very Hogwarts-like hall down at the main university. If we look at where our graduates have gone, what we see is we have full employment for our graduates. If we look at the graduates who've gone on to the internship matching program in North America, we have a 100% success rate in our students being placed. So that shows you again how competitive our students are. And we have examples of our students working in all aspects of veterinary practice. But we also have students who've gone on to have teaching careers, gone on to work for the government, working in public health, or gone on to have research careers. So there are many different things you can do with a University of Glasgow degree. So what else is different about Glasgow? Well, we're very proud of what we can offer for our students, and we think we can give you a home from home. We've put a huge amount of effort into supporting our students. We have a fantastic student support unit, which Joyce heads up, and that looks after our students, and it's quite unique because it starts working with students before they've applied to the program and follows them all the way through the program itself. All students are also given an academic member of staff as a mentor or an advisor of studies, and again, they will help and support them all the way through the program. But importantly, on the Glasgow campus, we only teach two programs, the veterinary medicine program and the veterinary biosciences program. And the veterinary medicine program is relatively small. It only takes about 130 students per year. And the veterinary biosciences program is very small. It only takes 25 students per year. So you'll soon get to know all of the students in your year and the years above you and the years below you. And they help and support the students as they go through the program itself. So we'd like to think it's because of what we do for our students, but it's most probably more because of the camaraderie we have amongst our student body that we do fantastically well with regard to student satisfaction scores. There's a whole series of those different metrics out there. The Complete University Guide has Glasgow as being the top UK veterinary school for the 3rd year running. The QS World Subject Rankings for 2021 came out 2 weeks ago, and Glasgow is now in the top 10 vet schools within the world. The Guardian University Guide for 2020, the University of Glasgow went up 10 points. We're the 2nd highest placed university in Scotland. St Andrews being the top placed university in Scotland, and they don't have a vet school, so we must be the best vet school in Scotland. 1st year student survey with the top veterinary school in the UK, and the Times Higher Education Awards for 2020 made University of Glasgow University of the Year. So all of these are indicating the quality of that undergraduate or the graduate experience for you guys that you would have at Glasgow. But in addition to working hard, it's also important that you have a very good work-life balance, and our students, because of that camaraderie amongst our student population on the Glasgow campus, they have a busy, hectic social life. They organize a whole series of different events for the community, such as they have formal events such as the Vet Ball, which is what you can see occurring in the bottom right-hand side of the images down here. We also have a rodeo, which is not a North American rodeo. It's actually a fundraising event for local animal charities, which you can see in the top right. They have the review and the panto, which just seem to be excuses to make fun of all of the staff. So there's a whole variety of different things which are organized for the Glasgow community, both the students and the staff. But you'll also have opportunities to join any of the university's clubs and societies because you are a member of the University of Glasgow in addition to the veterinary school itself. And our students will also get opportunities to meet students from the other vet schools. So AVS weekend, all of the vet schools get together and the students will compete against each other in sports. And Dick Day is a really important day on our calendar because there's another vet school in Scotland and we have to keep them in their place every year. And we do that by beating them at everything on Dick Day. But I said you do join the University of Glasgow, and University of Glasgow is an ancient university. It was founded in 1451, but it's ranked 69th within the world, and it was the first UK university to get a QS World 5-star ranking. It has about 27,000 students. Of those 27,000 students, about 20% are international. If we think specifically about the veterinary school, what we see is that proportion rises to about 50%. A large proportion come from North America because of the fact we have AVMA accreditation, but we also have students from Europe, from Asia, from the Middle East. So the experience you would have at Glasgow is not just a UK or a US experience, it's a truly international experience. We know that going to vet school is expensive. And that's one of the drivers we said for setting up the FEEPASS program, but we also try and help our students by fixing the fees at the point of entry. So what you pay for the first year of the program is what you would pay for the remaining years that you're on the program. Now those are fixed in pounds sterling, so there can be a little bit of fluctuation rate if the exchange rate changes. The cost of living in Glasgow is less than it is in the other capital cities in the UK. So London is the capital of England, Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland. They're much more expensive cities to live in. Our climate is moderate, so we would be sitting with a 75 degrees would be the maximum we would get in the summer, but on average in the winter it doesn't go much below 41. They say the weather in Glasgow is very changeable. If you don't like it, just wait a few minutes and it'll change because you can get sunshine and rain all happening in the same day. We have very long summer days, but of course the converse of that is that in the winter we get very short winter days because of our latitude. But if you're going to go overseas to a vet school, you are going to get a good veterinary education if you come to Glasgow, but you should also be looking to have a cultural experience. And Glasgow's a fantastic place to do that from. Glasgow is the largest city in Scotland and the 3rd most populated in the UK. And it grew to its fame and fortune because of the River Clyde, which is what you can see in the image here, because there was a huge amount of shipbuilding and international trade centered around the River Clyde itself. But these things have changed, and now Glasgow's reinvented itself, and it's now one of the financial capitals within Europe. It's a very safe place to be. It's a very exciting place to be. There's lots and lots of cultural events occurring within the city. And for the last few years, and 2021 is not to be excluded because this again was announced fairly recently, we have been consistently voted the world's friendliest city. So it's a great place to come to for the 5 years that you'd be on the veterinary program itself. And you will have downtime whilst you're on the program, and you should make the most of the city and explore what it has to offer. And it has many museums and art galleries. It has fantastic Glasgow School of Art present within the city itself. It has a fantastically vibrant music scene with all different genres of music being represented, and it's also the home of Scottish soccer. But because it's built along the River Clyde, it's actually a very long, thin city. So if you want to escape from the city and you'd rather do things in the countryside, if you go north and south, it's very easy to get out. Within a few miles of the river, you're out into the countryside. So you could be hiking, hill walking, mountaineering, taking part in fishing, water sports, golf. There are lots and lots of different things which you can do. And our location means that it's also a great place to explore the rest of Europe from as well. So, let's see if this is going to work. No. So that has given you a little kind of flavour of how the FEEPASS programme works and a little bit about Glasgow itself. And so we're quite happy to take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, I have a question to start out. So thank you so much for sharing your presentation with us. I was wondering what the average number of animal hours or vet hours people who are accepted normally have.
As we said, we're looking for people to have kind of 2 weeks, a minimum of 2 weeks veterinary experience. And I think that's really important because you need to be aware of what's involved in being a veterinarian, because that's what most of our graduates will go on to do. But we're not looking for you to have a huge number. You don't need to have a huge number of hours. As you've come through your animal science program, you'll have picked up a lot of experience with working with different animals. So that meets those requirements for us. So as long as you have those 2 weeks with a vet, at least 2 weeks, then that's all that's required to get onto the program itself.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else got any questions they would like to ask?
While you all think about your questions, I'll just chime in with kind of how it works from the Ohio State perspective. And Neil hit on some of these aspects, but you will apply through Ohio State's. We have an application process. You apply through our web brochure for the program. Most of the students at Ohio State will apply during their junior year. And I cannot stress this part enough. If you take nothing else away from what I'm about to say, this is the most important thing. You want to reach out to Dr. Kelly George in the animal science department. And I will send her contact information to Paige so she can send it out to the group. But Dr. George is what I would say, I guess, the coordinator between Ohio State and Glasgow for the program here. And so she is the one that can help you looking at your academics, making sure that you're creating a plan so that you are completing those courses that you need to complete before you go on to the program at Glasgow. She works with students very closely that are interested, making sure, like I said, they take the right classes, they're meeting the eligibility criteria, GPA, all of that stuff. So if nothing else, if you're even remotely interested, you need to talk to Dr. George. But then we will also, after the program, like they said, they send us a transcript. We'll give you Ohio State equivalents for all those classes. We post them to your Ohio State transcript. We give you a grade for the class as well. So some of those are like satisfactory, unsatisfactory. Some of those are letter grades. We have a whole conversion scale that's we use to work that out. And you, while you're billed through Glasgow for the tuition for the semester, you can apply financial aid that you normally get through Ohio State for this year that overlaps. So your federal financial aid, university grants and scholarships, if you get those through Ohio State, because you're enrolled in a placeholder course, you'll get refunded that money essentially, and then you can use that to turn around and pay Glasgow.
Nothing else? You're all very shy.
Out of curiosity, how many people normally apply per year, and then how many people are accepted?
So we have 12 schools now in the FEEPASS program, and we have on average about 3 applications per school. The agreement we have says we can take 10 students per school, but I think that's very unlikely to happen. So as long as you have the prerequisite you need for your bachelor's degree, you have the GPA that we want, 3.2 or above, and you have some experience with a veterinary surgeon, and obviously your animal science experience, then you should be fine. So we have had an occasion when somebody hasn't had as much experience as we would want, we've asked them to reapply the following year.
I suppose one thing which I didn't kind of say as we were going through the presentation, another kind of advantage of the FEEPASS program is you effectively get to try out both a veterinary medicine program and being overseas. And if you didn't like it, there's nothing stopping you applying through the VMCAS system and applying to a North American school. Now, of course, we would hope that you'd want to stay with us. And so far, of all the people who've come through the FEEPASS program, we've not lost anyone who's applied to go anywhere else. But in theory, you could try things out. And if it was really not what you wanted, then you're not disadvantaging yourself at all, because you're still going to get the Ohio State degree, but you have an extra experience as you go through the program.
And then I think that I saw on the Ohio State website about it that there is an interview process. So how would that work? Would that be here in the States, or would we travel?
Well,
there?
what we've done in the past is when we've had people who are interested in the program, when we come to Ohio State, usually in, I can't remember if it's September or March, I think it's September, end of September. Yeah, we would meet with the people interested, give them a presentation, do a brief interview and whatever. This year, obviously we haven't been able to do that, and we don't think we'll be able to do it this September either. So what we are relying on, we're relying on the information from your student advisor, from the people who know you well, to give you a good reference, and we will have a look at your application. What we've done with other schools is once we've made a decision on people, we've had a quick Zoom with them in case they have other questions that they want to ask. And sometimes the parents have attended that Zoom session as well. Because quite often, you know, parents are quite anxious about the fact that you'll be going overseas for a year at least, and maybe 5 years. So we don't mind that if parents want to join in.
The process itself, I mean, it's the application is a relatively simple application. It's looking for you to kind of state why you want to be a vet, why you'd be interested in the FEEPASS program itself, and looking for your details of your academic abilities, so your transcript, and a letter of reference from typically your advisor and a veterinarian, and that's it. And then that's submitted locally, it can get looked at locally, and then they will forward on what they deem to be the appropriate applications to us. We would have a look at them, and then, as Joyce said, we would then hope potentially meet with you guys after that. So it's a relatively straightforward and simple process, nothing to get too worried about. Because when you talk to people who are applying through the VMCAS system, some of the anxiety levels of the students who go through the VMCAS system is horrendous, and we don't want you to be anxious.
So you guys will submit all of that through us at Ohio State, and then we'll forward it on to Glasgow. But normally,
yeah, if we update, we sometimes tweak the application form a little bit. There's nothing going to change very much in the application form. Jill, who is the person who organises visas, has asked for people's date of birth to be included on the application. So that will be something we'll add. Once we've updated it, we'll send a copy to, we usually send it to Kelly. Mm-hmm. And students can get the application from Kelly. She will have a look at them. I think she does it maybe with other members of staff.
Yep.
On one occasion, she has suggested to a student that perhaps it wasn't the right programme for them. She let us know, obviously, that there were more applications, but one student didn't have the prereqs and wasn't going to be able to do them and wasn't going to be able to do them over the summer. So she's very, very good. She has a real good handle on this. And usually the decision is quite easily made once we have everything from Ohio. And because, like I say, they know their students and they know what they're capable of and whether they would survive overseas and all these kinds of things.
Yep. And our application is generally opens in autumn. So our application will probably come up here in the beginning of fall 2021 for the 2022-2023 year start date.
So we like to have them by the 1st of December if that's possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say our application deadline is usually like right at the end of November, early December.
Yeah. So somebody's asking a question. She's in the library and she can't speak. Can she apply as a BS in nutritional
science
major?
Yeah, I would confirm with Dr. George, because normally they ask for the animal science major. And I will say you do have to be an animal science major to apply. And normally they're looking for students that have the bioscience specialization. But yeah, I would reach out to Dr. George and just confirm with her that, because it's probably a matter of the prerequisites. Will you still get the same prerequisites through the nutrition program as you do through the bioscience?
And then kind of going off of that question, I know someone who has a minor in animal science. If anyone in the club has a minor in animal science, would that work too, as long as they have the prerequisites?
Well, that would work for us as long as you have the prereqs that we need, but you really need to make sure that you have the prereqs that Ohio State needs so that you can get your bachelor's degree. And there are specifics that you need to have, as well as the year in Glasgow, to make sure you get your bachelor's degree. So I think, again, a chat with Dr. George would be useful if anybody was considering that route.
I think part of the problem for people that are not animal science majors is we can't grant credit for other departments on campus. Yes. So the reason why animal science majors can do this in their senior year at Ohio State and then graduate is because animal sciences grants them the credits through the department that they're needing to graduate in their senior year. And so they meet those degree requirements. And so if it's from a different major, there's no guarantee that we can grant that type of credit, which is why we have it in our eligibility that you have to be an animal sciences major to apply to the program.
So a matching process went on between the Ohio State and Glasgow. So the Ohio State looked at what you're taught in the first year of our curriculum, and then they could see what that was equivalent for, and therefore you can almost substitute in those credits. So if that was all you required, for your minor, then that would be okay, but it may not be, and you need to speak to Dr. George about that.
Yeah. And that's the other part. It's also not just making sure you meeting with her now, making sure that you meet the prerequisites for the program, but making sure that you're taking the classes you need to take at Ohio State, so that what you're taking in Glasgow that year is what's left in your degree at Ohio State, right? So it's a very intricate process of making sure you're taking all of the right classes in your years now at Ohio State, so that what you take that overlapping year fulfills the remaining requirements, but you've also taken your prerequisites. So Dr. George will map it all out with everybody when you meet with her.